The first thing I smelled wasn't birthday candles. It was the sour, metallic scent of a dumpster. My name is Maya. I just turned 30, and instead of a milestone celebration, my mother handed me a white cardboard box that had been crushed on one side. Inside sat a celebration cake that was missing a jagged, massive wedge. Nearly 60% of it was gone. The remaining frosting was smeared with dirt, and a single, hair-covered candle flickered in the center. My entire family, my perfect sister, my loud-mouthed Uncle Silas, and my mother, didn't just laugh. They roared. They held their iPhones up like they were filming a car crash, capturing my expression of pure, soul-crushing humiliation for their group chats. "It's a metaphor, Maya," my mom shrieked, wiping a tear from her eye. "Since you're always living on scraps anyway, I figured why pay full price? I found it behind the bakery on 4th. Someone threw it out because it was damaged, just like your career." I didn't scream. I didn't throw the trash cake at her dry-cleaned blouse. I felt a cold, crystalline clarity wash over me. I realized that for 30 years, I had been the family's emotional landfill. I was the starving artist daughter they used to make themselves feel superior. I leaned over to Uncle Silas, who was filming me while choking on his own laughter. I got so close I could smell the expensive bourbon on his breath, bourbon he shouldn't have been able to afford. I whispered 6 words into his ear that turned his face the color of wet ash. I saw the offshore wire transfers. The laughter died in his throat. The phone slipped from his hand, clattering onto the mahogany table. 2 weeks later, the people who treated me like garbage were suddenly treating me like a detonator. This didn't start with a half-eaten cake. It started 3 months ago when my mother asked me to fix her old tablet because it was glitching. My family sees me as a tech-illiterate failure because I work in freelance digital illustration. To them, if you aren't sitting in a cubicle for 40 hours a week, you aren't working. But because I understand operating systems better than they do, I'm the one they call when they forget their passwords. While I was clearing the cache on my mother's device, a notification popped up. It wasn't an email, it was a synced message from a secure messaging app. The sender was Silas. The message read, "The renovation funds cleared. $220K moved to the Caymans. Tell the rest of the siblings the estate is still tied up in probate." My heart stopped. My grandmother had passed away a year prior, leaving a modest inheritance meant to be split between all the grandchildren, including me and my younger cousins who were struggling with tuition. My mother and Silas had told us there was nothing left after medical bills and taxes. I started digging. I didn't have to be a hacker. They were so arrogant they hadn't even deleted the digital trail. I found spreadsheets hidden in a folder labeled old recipes. It wasn't just a few $1,000s. It was a systematic siphoning of my grandmother's life savings. They were faking debt documents and funneling the money into Silas's consulting firm, which was really just a front for their personal shopping sprees and luxury vacations. I saw my mother's replies. "Maya won't notice. She's too busy playing with her crayons to understand a bank statement. Just keep her feeling small so she doesn't ask questions." I sat in my dark apartment that night, staring at the blue light of the screen. I could have gone to the police right then, but I knew my family. They would play the victim. They would gaslight me until I believed I'd misread the numbers. I needed to wait for the right moment, the moment they showed their true colors so clearly that I wouldn't feel a shred of guilt for pulling the trigger. That moment was the cake. Back at the celebration, the silence following my whisper to Silas was deafening. My mother, sensing the shift in the room, tried to force the joke back into play. "Oh, look at Silas. He can't even handle a joke. Maya, stop being so dramatic and sit down. We're going to order drinks." "I'm done with the jokes, Mom," I said. My voice was quiet, but it carried across the entire restaurant. "And I'm done with the scraps." I walked out. I didn't look back. I got into my 10-year-old car, drove to a nearby park, and finally let the tears come. But they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release. For the next 14 days, my phone became a battlefield. It started with, "Hey, let's talk," texts from Silas. Then it escalated to frantic voicemails from my mother. "Maya, You misunderstood what you saw. Family doesn't betray family over money. Think about what this will do to your sister's reputation. They weren't worried about me. They were worried about the paper trail I'd quietly screenshotted and uploaded to a cloud drive. On the 15th day, I met Silas and my mother at a neutral coffee shop. They looked haggard. The regal mask my mother usually wore was cracked. "What do you want?" Silas hissed, leaning across the table. "Money, you want your share. Is that what this little stunt was about?" I looked at them, really looked at them. They thought I was like them. They thought everyone had a price because they did. "I don't want your stolen money," I said, placing a thick envelope on the table. It didn't contain a ransom note. It contained copies of the wire transfers and a letter from a lawyer I'd hired using the last of my savings. "I've already sent the full digital file to the estate executor and the other cousins. The ones you told there was nothing left for their college funds." My mother's face went white. You destroy us, your own flesh and blood." "You handed me a cake from a dumpster, Mom," I replied. "You told me I was only worth the things other people threw away. If I'm garbage, then I guess I'm just doing what garbage does. I'm making a mess." I stood up to leave. "Wait," Silas barked. "We can fix this. We'll pay it back. Just tell them you made a mistake." "The truth isn't a mistake, Silas. It's a consequence." I walked out of that coffee shop feeling lighter than I had in a decade. They had spent years trying to convince me that I was the missing half of the family, the piece that didn't fit, the one who didn't add up. But as I watched them scramble to salvage their lies through the window, I realized I wasn't the missing piece. I was the one who finally made the picture whole. The fallout was massive. The family split down the middle. My cousins got their inheritance, and my mother and Silas are currently facing a mountain of legal litigation and social exile. People ask me if I regret it. They ask if keeping the peace would have been better than lighting the match. But here's the thing about lighting a match. It's the only way to see what's really hiding in the dark. And for the first time in my life, I'm not living on scraps. I'm finally eating the whole cake. Would you have stayed quiet to keep a family that never truly kept you? Or would you have handed back the trash they gave you? The choice was easy, because once you see the dirt on the frosting, you can never go back to pretending it's sweet.